Hope everybody's ready for tonight. Back at it. Shouldn't be too difficult. So vocab review. There isn't any. Aren't you excited? No vocab, but you're supposed to do it anyway. And what I decided to do, since we're in the 8th week, I kind of dropped the alphabet out and the vowels. I'm trusting you guys are good with the alphabet and the vowels. For the most part, we know those. So we'll just continue to kind of review through some of the key things. I also dropped out the definite article and the conjunction. So the verb is a conjunction, the definite article. Can somebody tell me what that is? What's the format of the definite article on a word? Does anybody remember? That's a conjunction. That's the word and. This is the definite article, the word the. The hey precedes a word. It's a hey, patach, and dagesh is the format. Unless you have what kind of letter that follows the hey, a guttural won't take, it'll reject the dagesh. So it'll change the vowel. You might have a comment. Some forms will have a sagol. Just kind of depends in there on as to what the letter is. So we'll just do a quick little review. Again, I know we've done this several times, but that's okay. So we'll I'm going to pick on Daisy. Why don't you just tell me, how would you say a female horse in Hebrew after you finish chewing? Not susot, a singular female horse. That's okay. It'd be, does anybody know? Susa. Susa. Yep. There's a female. That's how you think about that. But what would be feminine plural? Susot. Exactly. So Wayne, how would I say the female horse? Hasusa. Hasusa would be a or the female singular horse. Brant, male horses, plural. Susim, exactly. And Jay, if we wanted to do the male horses, so plural, what would that be? Hasusim, exactly. We got female horses. So Days, I'm going to come back to you. If I wanted to say the female horses. So that is ha. Ha, su, sot. Ha, su, sot. So those are those endings that can get a little tricky. We'll look at them again here in a minute. We went through some adjectives, noun adjectives agreements, and just as a reminder, we're always looking for gender, number, and definiteness in agreement. Okay, do you remember what definiteness is? It can be indefinite, both of them, or definite, both of them. But if you have an adjective modifying a noun, they will always agree. And as a reminder, there are some irregular nouns. Eretz is one of them, earth. Even though it looks masculine, it actually is feminine. So the adjective will always tell you the gender of the noun that it's modifying. So it can be kind of strange when you see Eretz Tova, a good earth, because you're thinking, well, earth is not feminine, but it is. So there's a handful of those irregular nouns in there, and just be aware of that. That may not look like they agree, but they actually do. And you'll figure that out when you begin to work through and read the sentence. So let's do a couple of these. Steve, do you feel up to reading the top line? You want to give it a shot? What the shavas? Okay, so when a shawa is at the beginning of a word, it's a short eh. So it'd be meh. So it'd be meh. That's okay. We'll step through it together here. So it'd be meh, la, chim. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Melachim tovim. Actually, this would be good kings, plural. The im tells us it's a plural ending. All right. Let's see. Carol, we haven't picked on you yet. Why don't you take this line down here? You read it and tell us what it means.
It's Melkotova.
Malkatova. What is a Malkatova?
Good queen.
A good queen. That's exactly right. Very good. Very nice. All right. Let's see. Brant, take the top line for me. Melek Tov. And what is a Melek Tov? A good king. That's right. And the question is, do I pick on Wayne or Jay? Wayne or Jay?
No, girl.
We'll go with Jay. Why don't you go ahead and read this this last line here and tell us what it means. So it'd be Tovot is correct. That last one there is going to, your syllable break is right here. So it's mal hot. Mahot tovot. And what's a mahot tovot?
Would that be good queen?
Good queens. Exactly. Very good. Very, very nice. And we'll give this one to Wayne. This top one up here, Wayne. That's an O vowel. Yep, that's a bet, but without a V, without the dog, so it's a V sound. So we'll go through that together. So ha, melek. This is a silent schwa, so it's melek ha melek, ha tov. So ha melek ha tov. Go ahead and say that. Exactly. And what is a ha melek ha tov?
King.
The good king. Exactly. You got it. You actually, the way you worked that out is a good way to do it. The king, the good one. So, yep. That's a good one. All right. Who would like to try this last one? And maybe tell me what's different about this that makes us a slightly different phrase. So you got your hand up. You want to give it a shot? Okay. Why don't you read it then? Melek. Nope. Remember, in noun adjective relationship, there are three things that have to match. So the first one is gender. Are they both masculine? Yes. The number. So are they both singular? It's just one. There's no im or ot. And the third thing that has to match for a noun adjective is the definiteness. They both have to have the same level of definiteness. Do they both have the same definiteness? No, they don't. So this is not a noun adjective relationship here. So I introduced this one to you a few weeks ago, just as a little one to throw out, because we'll be talking about this in a few weeks. So let's just kind of think through this for a second. So we have Daisy. How would I translate this first word here? Ha-melech, the king. And this one here, we could say a good one. The king, a good one, because it's one and it's good. But we're missing a verb. We have to add the verb to be, which is, was, something like that. So when we see a difference in definiteness between two nouns, it becomes becomes what they call, you don't need to worry about this term, but it becomes what we call a nominative sentence. So this is actually rendered, the king is good. But if we had a hey right here, it would be the good king. So when there's a difference in the level of definiteness between two words, you don't have a noun adjective relationship anymore. One is acting as a subject. We have to add the verb, and one's acting as the predicate. The king is good. Does that make sense? I'm speaking to you in 6th grade grammar terms that none of the rest of us in the room understand. Just sharing with you. I only know it's a predicate, but I don't actually know what a predicate is.
Is and
Could be if there were a verb preceding it, that might give us some information about the tense of that. But for the most part, most of the time, it will be an is. If their context will always tell us. If the king that they're talking about is dead, and it's the previous verses have shared that, then we would just say, and the king was good in that case. But for the most part, just figure is. We've got to add the verb in when you have a difference in definiteness in there.
hard light. Okay. Man. Final.
It's a final cough, correct? Yep, you got it. Ha melek tov.
Okay, on a final form, got one prop there. It's on the show on.
Yes.
So now that's up on the side.
Yes.
Reactions.
Yes. So in the final form, the schwa will usually come up into the word because if they hang it down here off the bottom, it could get confusing with the leg that extends down below the line.
I was it might have been vowel.
Yeah, there are some hataf vowels. Yep. But it is not. It's a silent schwa. Yep.
Question: does that final two? There's a dagesh on the
Yes.
That's supposed to be there.
Yes. Because it is of which 6 characters that we pay attention to in dageshes.
Right. The young thought.
Yep.
We're probably only of the last I realized it was an acronym.
Sorry, no. There's that's a tav, not a tet. So yeah. But yes, it is supposed to be there on that one.
Because I thought it was just there in the previous ones. Is the hey, but she didn't know.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry, you're looking at this one down here, aren't you? Yes, it's left there by accident. No.
Oh, no.
Thank you. I was looking up here, and you're correct. I took it off on the bottom.
That's right.
It's a tet.
Did I say top?
I think I said tav. I think I thought tav, and I think you said tet. So
I can't hear the people on the bottom. I can't hear.
okay. There was just a question about this dagesh down here in this tov. That was all, and I left it in by accident.
Oh, okay.
All right. Good questions. Anything else on that one before we go? We'll learn that form a little bit more as we go forward of having definiteness is going to create some challenges because not only are there do you pay attention to the degree of there's a degree of definiteness. So there's a definite article, but a proper name is slightly more definite.
Okay.
And a demonstrative pronoun is the most definite, or as my Hebrew teacher taught us, it's a super definite. Demonstrative pronouns. In fact, we're going to be looking at some of those today. You actually know what they are. You use them every day. You just don't actually know the words. So there are different levels of definiteness in the Hebrew language, and that can create some interesting scenarios. So if we were to say, for instance, Hamelech, and let's say Shlomo, Solomon, okay? Hamelech Shlomo. That would actually be rendered as Solomon is the king, or the king is Solomon. because Solomon is slightly more definite than a ha. So there's little stuff like that we'll run into, but that won't be quite today. All right. So Daisy, I'm going to pick on you one more time. If I want to, if there's a masculine singular noun, is there any ending suffix to a masculine singular noun? No, correct. If I want to take that noun and make it plural, what would I put on the end of it? Plural masculine. Im, correct. And if I want a singular feminine, nope. It's the one that you missed when we first opened up. Yep. And it's kind of the same sound husbands make when their wives ask them questions. Something like that. Okay. And if I'm making a plural feminine, what's that one going to be? Oat. Correct. That's exactly right. Very good. So, im, oat. Commit those to memory because you'll need them.
Question.
Sure.
On the big octopus, whenever they have the dots,
Mhm.
gashes. So, but those are only so that we can understand how to pronounce.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, could there be two words that are exactly the same, like the same root? One has the dog dash, and there's a different word in it.
Not in the roots. They won't be in the roots necessarily.
Okay. So it's pretty much only so we know how to pronounce.
For the most part, unless it is, unless it's followed by a vowel. If the Bagad Kafat letter is followed by a vowel and doubled, then that tells us, and has the dagesh, that tells us it's a double letter. So the dagesh it's the doubling dagesh. So in all letters except the Bagad Kafat, whenever you see the dagesh, it's a double.
So you have to say it when vowels what? Consonant twice.
You would pronounce that consonant twice, typically.
Oh.
Now, that rule is going to get slightly upended when we start to get into certain verb forms. But by then, you're not going to be thinking about how do I pronounce this dagesh or what does it mean? You'll know your vocab enough that you'll just know if it's a double or not.
But like modern Hebrew people, they don't ever put those.
Correct.
Right. So,
Correct.
So like it is just so that we know how to pronounce.
Yeah. And they don't, they do not do the dagesh typically because they know it's their native language.
Right.
So they know positionally and the vowels that are preceding, whether it's a B or a V sound. They just know it.
So you just have to know the root words and everything else comes.
Everything else gets fit around that. Yep. All right.
Learn's a lot more simple than, there won't ever be two roots that are the same, but it's dagesh.
Oh, no, there won't be dageshes, but you will absolutely get in situations where you have, you may have a 3-letter root that is actually 4 or 5 different words.
Oh,
But fortunately, that's not the majority of the Hebrew language.
right.
But there are a couple of words.
Just like dagesh.
Exactly. There's a couple of words that tsarar has like 4 different meanings to it, but it's spelled the same in all cases. And it's a problem word because it has tzare resh resh. And the resh already doesn't take dageshes. It tends to reject certain vowels. And because it's a double at the end of the word, oftentimes one of the reshes just drops off entirely.
Right.
Which then makes it challenging because there is a tsar word, just tzare resh. And so it's all based on context.
Right.
When you're reading along, you're like, okay, well, so is this hostility? Is this, what is it?
Mhm.
But you'll know in the context of the
In
sentence.
English, there's a few things that like the native speaker would know that.
Yeah.
That's learning.
Yep. So good question. Were you going to ask something, Jeff?
I just was looking at it and wondering if it would be more appropriate on your male plural that it was a final.
It would absolutely be more appropriate to have a final mem there. Yes. And you can see what happens when I'm just typing quickly through there.
Well, I'm sorry, I knew it was Eve, but
Yeah, it's an eme, and it should be a final mem. I think actually you may have pointed that out once before, and I have yet to correct it. I fixed the female horse, though, so it's no longer an MAIL horse.
Oh, I think that works.
But thank you for that. I appreciate it. All right. So we're still just going to talk about adjectives and nouns in this case. But you can see we're gonna add a little bit to it as we're coming through. So this is kind of a summary of how nouns and adjectives can be rendered together here. And first, I want to just ask: Are there any words in here that you recognize other than the melech and the tov? Because we've been working on melech and tov for quite some time. Amar. Okay. That's okay. Any others in there that look familiar? The L. Okay. Do you remember what L means? This one doesn't mean God. There is an L, which is a sere. This is, so when we have an L here with a sere, that is L, God. When we have an L with a sagol, it means to. To, as in I'm headed to that place. Directional. Daisy? Oh. Ra, which one? Let's just look at the top one here first. That's okay. Did you want to try this one? Do you know what the word for man is? Other than Adam? Man or husband? Carol just said it. She could help you.
Or each.
So Isha is woman. Ish is man. So why don't you pronounce this word for me, Daisy? No, the whole thing. Ha-ish. What does that sound like it's saying? Ha-ish. You got it. Exactly. Perfect. Perfect. So we've got a little bit of a sentence here, and I want to talk about what adjectives can do. It can be somewhat confusing sometimes, but what I want to, it will be confusing because if you're like me and you're like most, you're going to try to turn the language in, you're going to try to translate it, and you're going to try to make it very precise and specific, and you're going to end up with a lot of words, and you won't be able to figure out how they go together. So you're going to have all the correct words, but they're going to be out of order, and you're going to be taking guesses as to how these things relate to one another. And that's a very common thing to go through. Even authors within the Hebrew Bible will change up how they do word order, just for poetic reasons, which they weren't thinking of American learners of ancient Hebrew when they were putting this together, and they just followed certain grammatical rules so that we always knew, because they're artists with the language, right? So they will change certain things up and position them a little differently, and it can take on a slightly different meaning. Okay, such as poetry always can.
Brilliant.
Exactly. So in this case, let's just kind of think through this in a little bit. So, does anybody remember what Amar? Amar is not two. So Amar is probably one of the most common variances of words. Daisy, you've got your hand part way. Did you want to give it a shot? It is. It's one of the first ones from, I think, one of the first or second weeks. That would be Yeshav. So you're close. It's not to go. Amar is a speaking, to speak. It's an important word because most of the time it's introducing what we call direct speech. It's introducing a quote. So when they say amar, you see the amar word, expect that you're going to get the words of somebody who's speaking. So, and Yaakov, like amar Yaakov, and Jacob said, quote, and here's what Jacob's going to say afterwards. So that's often how the amar word works. So amar, and in this form, it means he said, but we're wondering who it is that was speaking. So he said, somebody said something, he said, who would the he be in this particular case? Anybody want to jump in on who the he is? The good king. So we could say, he said, the good king, it's kind of the order, and the good king is speaking to someone or something or a group, or in this case, the good king is speaking to who? The man. So when you actually break this down literally, if King James only people, and not to offend anybody, wanted to be real specific, then this line would read something like, the king, the good one, spoke to the men. But that's going to be really hard to figure out in English. So we have to smooth that out a little bit and begin to identify that the good king is the one who is speaking to the man.
It's kind of question. You can imagine like this song, like said,
If you can be comfortable with Old English and Yoda, you will have no problem in Hebrew.
it sounds like I just said the king.
Yes.
This is what I said.
Yeah. The king, the good, speak to him. It's all kind of twisted and out of order a little bit. All right. So in this case, this adjective that's here, the hatov, is telling us something about this king, which is the king is good, right? We that's how it's working in this particular sentence. So exactly that. The good king spoke to the man. Let's see. Who should we give this to read? Carol, I'm going to pick on you for the second one. Go ahead and read it. The accent on Melech is right here. So it's on right above the mem, but go ahead and see if you can read that one for us.
Melech, Atov, Hayoim, Hara.
Okay, you got it all good. This is ve-ha-am. Yep, I'll say it one more time for you. Ve-ha-am. Ve-ha-am. Hara. All right, so we know what the Hamelech Hatov is, right? We've got that one figured out. The good king, we know this. This little character is which one? What is the vav? It's the conjunction. So we have the good king and ha'am hara. So let me tell you, does anybody know those words in there before I put a break in? You can take a shot at it. I'll let you know where the break is here. So we have a couple of heys. And we need to ask, hey, why are you there? All right. Go ahead, Daisy. They are definite articles, correct. Now, why are they not a patak like we see up here? The hey, patak, and dagesh. Why are they not in that form? Starts with a G. They're gutturals. So these gutturals, do they take a dagesh? No, they do not. And this resh, although it's not officially a guttural, it behaves like one in that it rejects a dagesh too. So what happens to the dagesh that would usually be here? Where does it go? Goes down and just kind of adds itself to the bottom of that top, turns into commas. Okay. So the good king and the, what's that?
The evil.
So you know the ra, the evil or bad something here, but who remembers what the is? What's an A hand is a yad. You want to say omelet? Yeah. Those are the that's the egg meal of the people.
Oh. It's down, right?
Nope. See, I just said it in a way that she knows I've given her a clue. The omelet is the egg form for the people. The people. People. Yep. Is people. So the good king and the raw people. Or it could be, in this case, evil, wicked, something like that. So when we get into a situation like this, and I've told you that they're equal in definiteness, they're equal in gender, they're equal in number. So we would say this is being used as the good king. It's just describing it that way. But in the context, the good king and the evil people, or the evil ones, we're getting a bit of a compare and contrast here, right? You kind of get the feel of that. You've got a king, you've got people. You've got a good king, you've got evil people. There's some contrasting going on with that conjunction there. So you could be rigid and say, the good king and the evil people. You could be rigid with it. But there's a little flexibility here where you could render it to say the king is the good one and the people are the evil ones. That's just as valid in the text. And it might make a little more sense in English. So I want to introduce the idea that there can be some flexibility when you start to get these together, that they may be acting like objects within the sentence, and they're not necessarily just attributes. The good may not simply be telling us it's a good king. There may be a little more. It could say the king is good and the people are evil. There might be a bit of a contrast going on here. So it's simply to say the language is flexible with it. And there's only one way that you'll know how to render it. There's only one way that you'll know how to put it together. Does anybody remember how that is? It's the C word, context. It will be the context of what you're reading in the sentence. Will always solve that problem for you. And it's okay if you see something and you're like, but Jeremy said, and that's the rule. The rule in Hebrew is the rules are almost always broken. Okay.
Okay, what are the two options?
So you could say the good king and the evil people, but you could also turn it into a nominal sentence. The king is good and the people are wicked. So either one will work when you get some of these comparative, get a conjunction that falls in the middle of that. So just keep that in mind. And the last one here, let's go ahead and say, well, Jay, how about you give us a shot here on the last one? The first two words, you should have no problem with it.
Excuse me, and we have
That's a final noon.
the final one. So
That's a hear it.
I hear it. The men,
Min, perfect. Yep.
and then we have bell.
That's a cough
Oh, it's
with a dogash, so it's a hard K sound.
B-A. Is it a Kamatz that's under?
It is a kamatz, but it's a tricky one, which I won't talk about right now. But so yeah, you could.
Normally with Kamatz, it would be cold.
Mhm.
And then Nello. Well,
Hamelakim. That's right. So Hamelek Ato Min Kol. This is one of those that's. Remember, we have a different version of the kamatz that's an O vowel, and it's O when it's in a closed syllable, which we have. and it's not accented because the accent is sitting back over here. So whenever you see, just a little note for you to know, whenever you see this word, kaf, kamatz, lamed, it will always be pronounced kol or hol, either one. It always, I will say, as far as I know, it always shows up at the front of the word. Always. This makef that's right here, this little dash looking thing, actually makes this whole thing one word. Okay. So the accent, so you pronounce them together. Kol hamalachim is how you would say it. Right. Right. Kol hamalachim. So there would be no break between the kol and the ha. Kol hamalachim. It would be as if to say, here's all the words you would join together. All the kings. So you would type ALLTHEKINGS with no spaces.
It sounds like you gave a bit of a balance of that, Siobhan.
I did.
Because it wouldn't be just
I have a short vowel, so I'm gonna get a moving schwa here. So all right, so Jay, that's all right. Hang with it. You're only in like 3 weeks now. So hang with it, you'll get there. All right, so Jay, Hamelech HaTov means
that's
the good king. Perfect. And min, right here. Do you remember your vocab for what min means?
don't
Does anybody remember min? What it meant? I'll let you look that up while I eat a cookie. From. All right. So go ahead and
like came from in plural about king. So what's the all?
means all.
So the good king from all the king.
Yep. You're right on the literal of it.
Is that king of kings?
No, that would be
So it's all yes.
I can only remember that from Shir HaShirim, which is Song of Songs. So it'd be Melech HaMelechim, would be King of Kings.
I was hoping I was going to be king of kings. Like that's the way that they say it.
So the word from can give a sense of comparison, right? A bit. From all of these, this one's the best. Okay. So it can give a bit of a sense of that. We don't use it that way, but pick the best from that box. Pick the best banana from that pile.
So the best king. That's what
From
these.
all these kings. Exactly. So it kind of gives you that sense. So the king, the good one from all the kings. That's exactly how it would be put together. And if you're you've been doing this for 3 or 4 months and you come into a sentence like this in your Hebrew Bible and you know all the words, you can just imagine the frustration for just a moment. In 5 or 6 weeks, you're going to be able to look back at this and know every word and know how to write the English version of the word underneath it, and then struggle to figure out what on earth it's trying to say. And there's nothing more frustrating than that. So these connections that we have here, sometimes when we have the noun adjective relationship going on, it can be what's called a superlative. It's an elevation above. So in this case, I think you were very close to it. The king, we can add a verb in here because Hebrew doesn't always have the verbs in here. The good king was, we could put that in. the best of all the kings. And that's a perfectly legitimate rendering out of this. So from all the kings, the good king. This is the good one. And so you have to have a little flexibility in your mind and not be quite so rigid around the translation in order to move it into English. All right. And I will just tell you, it's for me, because I'm a rule guy, I'm a systematic nerd, I'm an IT nerd based human. So when I'm sequentially trying to work things out and I get to a passage and I have 4 or 5 verses in front of me and I know every word, I know the verbs, I know everything, and I can sit there and scribble it out. And I can't figure out for the life of me who's doing what and means what because I can't put the words together. There is nothing more frustrating than that. So then I have to stop and remember, okay, wait, there's some flexibility because I'm translating from Hebrew to my native language. So I need to think about what these words are doing together. So this is the king, the good one from all the kings. So this is the king was the best because that's the good one. This is the only good one in here. This one isn't. Was the best from all the kings. And that's a perfectly legitimate English rendering of that line. So I want to kind of start today to break that thought of it's you can go one for one literal because you can't in all cases. You can't.
Is there like a formal past tense
Yes.
in Hebrew?
Yes.
Oh,
In fact, this Amar is the past tense form. He said to past complete action. Yep.
And now the superlative, adjective section there, is there anything that is a context that would make past tense?
So this is going to jump ahead my answer by a few weeks, but this min behaves a bit like in a comparative form. It behaves a little bit like a noun adjective feel to it. So I've got one side over here that's a good king, that is the good king, and one over here that are just the kings. And in that comparative relationship, we know that something's happening. The min tells me there's a relationship between these two clauses. And then I have to figure out, based on context, usually, what is that relationship? Is this, it could be the Melech Hatov min B'nai Shlomo. This was the good king from the sons of Solomon.
I see.
Well, in that case, I don't really have to figure that one out, do I?
But it could be like is or was, right? Like
Exactly. Depending on what the context would be.
my mind's just going straight to when God's speaking to Moses and he says, I'm the God of Abraham and Isaac or whatever. And then later Jesus, references like the majesty instead. So he's the God of living, not the dead. And so now I'm just like wondering what I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah. Hey, this is why you'll have certain, if you listen to the Bible Project, you can hear Tim talk about how there's some flexibility in what it might mean. This is why, because to get it into English or any other language that's really not a Semitic, an Eastern language, you've kind of got to do a few hoops because English really demands at least a verb and a subject.
I'm sure it'd be the other way around too. Or if you translate English to Hebrew, they'd be like,
Oh,
is this sentence saying this or not?
So here's what I'd suggest. Grab your phone, set yourself a reminder a year from today after you've spent a year in the class, okay? And you'll know, trust me, you'll look back on this time and go, that was the hardest thing I ever did, okay? But then once you kind of starts to click, which it will eventually start to click, do this experiment. Go to Google and type in a simple English sentence and ask it to convert it to Hebrew with words you know in your vocabulary and watch what it does. It will drop verbs out of it. It will shift things around and you'll just think, how does something so simple in English turn out to be like that?
Well, that's language.
They are. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of give an example here, a bit of what can happen with adjectives and noun relationships. For me, my experience has been, and I think it's the experience of the students that I've been with, that figuring out how nouns and adjectives fit and work within the sentence can often be a challenge, which is why we're kind of pounding in on gender, number, definiteness, so you know what goes with what. And as soon as you know what goes with what, then you can kind of parentheses certain things in here and say, okay, so I'm dealing with this thing. What's happening next? And begin to unpack it and break it down a little bit. What I can tell you as well, just as a bit of encouragement, because I know every Monday is overwhelming and you leave going, I'm never coming back. This is too hard. What I can tell you is what we're looking at right here, by probably mid-April, you won't even think about.
Right.
You just won't think about. You'll see these and you'll know. You'll know. So except for Wayne, it might take Wayne till June. Maybe.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And a bim and a wow. There goes letters.
This one right here. This is a mem and a noon. It's a final noon.
Okay, so that's final.
Correct.
Oh well. I look more like that. Yeah, it looks more like a blob, but it doesn't.
It does, and the way we know on this one is that the letter drops below the line. Yep.
On that.
Yep. Easily confused letters. Actually, that happened to me in my last class that I had. I was asked to read, and I just was, sometimes you struggle to put the letters together, and I completely treated a vav as a final noon and then a final noon as a vav in the middle of reading in the final class. That's recorded for all time. Now, what's funny, what's strange, I'd say for the first 2.5 years, I never confused the letters. But the more time I spent with the language, the easier it became to confuse things. I don't understand why. I think it's because I'm trying to read faster, which I don't know why I am. Nobody cares. But apparently I do. Anyway, any more questions on that one? And then we'll get to this last part that we're going to look at today, which is mostly just going to be some memorization for you guys. But any other questions before we go? The lesson out of this is there's flexibility. But as long as you can identify the noun adjective relationships, that's going to go a long way for you in figuring out what words are what. Okay. So I think you asked, what is a demonstrative pronoun? What is a demonstrative pronoun? We'll give Daisy a second to let the adults take a shot at it before you answer. Demonstrative pronoun. It's an evil pronoun. No, these are the pronouns that go to Washington and have with their signs and they march. They're demonstrative. All right, Daisy. Actually, hold on. Poppy. Hey, Poppy. Do you know what a pronoun is?
I've been learning.
Do you want to give it a shot? What is a pronoun?
Recently. Hold on. I think I totally forgot because we just started learning this on Friday.
Did you learn them in Spanish or in English?
Spanish more.
Spanish more? Okay. All right. That's okay. So a demonstrative pronoun are words that are used in place of nouns to identify precisely what's being indicated. So in other words, this one, that one, they. So in other words, it's this, these, that, and those are demonstrative pronouns. Okay. I want you to go get those blinds. Right? Instead of describe, it's the way to really precisely hone in on which it is. Now, Hebrew has demonstrative pronouns. And as usual, you're going to say to yourself, wow, that's would make sense. It's a language. So, if it's this one or that one or these or those, I mean, you kind of need to know that in any sort of a language. And you would think that Hebrew would make it simple, but it's not always super simple until you start to see it in the sentences show up. And so, sorry, Poppy, did you raise your hand?
Yeah. Can you kind of make it a little bit smaller? Because all I can see is only 2 lines.
I cannot. You might need to just pinch your screen down.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I don't, this kind of comes out of the book I'm using, things that are close at hand, things farther away. I'm okay with this concept. I wouldn't worry about it too much, quite frankly. It's really just a matter, this side right here on the left, these are the most common ones that show up. Okay. When I see the other ones on the right side, I have to ask myself a question as to what they mean, because those are actually have double meanings behind them. The ones on the right side. So I'm going to start over here on the left. Who would like to, let's see, I'm going to go with Brant. So Brant, why don't you read on the left column, just read the 3 Hebrew words there.
Zeh,
Mm-hmm.
Zok,
Mm-hmm. And the accent's up here on the Aleph.
Ella,
Ella. Very good. And much like vocabulary, it's just what the word means. Zeh, this, masculine singular. Zeh. So you could say, Zeh Melech, this king. All right. Could also reverse the order. Yom Zeh, this day. We could say, Zeh popcorn, this popcorn. Lo, he popcorn. That one. All right. So that doesn't show up quite as often, and those don't show up quite as often, but the ones on the left do show up often. And they're just a way to identify it. So let's think of, what's the word for horse? Sus. All right. So you could say, Ze sus, this horse. But if I used susa, which one would I pick for feminine? Zot. Susa zot. This feminine horse. And we know this because on our plural form, a couple of patterns you're going to start to pick up. Eames, oftentimes, mems at the end of the words, oftentimes are masculine. And tavs at the end of the words, oftentimes are feminine. Okay. And then if you're plural, it's just ela, these. So you could say, ela susim, these horses. Ela susim. Right. You could say, ela ha'am hato, these good people. Okay. That ze, ela, that ela could come, just like we're looking back over on this other slide and you were looking at things really confused and you're like, why is he going over this? There's flexibility in the ordering of the words and how you render it to English. Well, when it comes to demonstrative pronouns, we're in the same boat. They can be flexible as to where they're placed. They could be before nouns, they could be after nouns, but they tend to follow a pretty specific order. And most of the time, it's kind of a doubling up. We'll see it oftentimes. It'll be like ha melech ze, this the king. We see that often in Hebrew, but it's Hebrew's way of saying it's this one, specifically this one. So the ones you want to memorize out of this on this list are the ze, zot, ela. You will learn these, and they will come in a slightly different form. In fact, some of them, I don't remember if they've been in your vocab or not, but who and he. Who should sound familiar? Who and he. I gave you a little mnemonic for that. What was it?
Who is he?
Who is he?
Yes.
He is she. So we see the same words right over here. They can be used, who and he, as demonstrative pronouns. So a who, sus who, is that horse.
That makes sense because there's now a neuter or neutral or whatever it's called.
Exactly.
Because we both call it chicks. Look at this rock.
Look at this rock. Right.
A rock in Hebrew is like totally feminine, right?
Right.
So you can say, look at her, And so like that, it's going to be like.
So I think of it, here's a word picture for your mind. If you, let's say you had somebody building you a big, tall sailing ship, and you walked up and in that case, someone has Banad built an onia for you, a ship. And you would walk up and you might say, Ra, Yira, he. Look at her. The ship, you would call a ship a her. Look at her. She's beautiful. Right? You might do the same thing with a car. Inanimate objects, we even in English will call it a her. She's a great city to visit. Is she? She's a city, right? We still use those same things in our own language today. And so we will find those same ones will show up and can be used as demonstrative pronouns.
And these aren't predicates, right? These are their own words.
They are their own words. Yes. Yep. Go ahead.
How do you tell the difference between hurrah and hurrah? I'd say hurrah. Well, she said, I'd say big as a ship.
If we were learning the language to speak it back and forth, we would the raw for wicked would catch a bit of the guttural. Ra, ra. It'd have that little guttural push out of it versus ra. Yeah. That's why we're not worried about speaking it to each other. We just need to know the difference between an ayin, a hey, and an aleph. That's all. But we don't need to worry about it speaking. But when you're starting to translate, you're starting to read your Hebrew Bible to try to figure out what it's saying. It's important to read it so that your ear can hear it, because oftentimes that'll help your ear go, oh, that's that word. That's that one. But you don't need to worry about anybody else understanding what you're saying. Okay. All right. And this, the slide deck is in Canvas, so you can go there and grab it and get a copy of this particular slide.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was. Yep. So, all right. So we're going to try a quick little exercise here, and then I think we'll do vocab and be done. All righty, Wayne.
Demonstrate.
Got that part? Good. All right, read this Hebrew part down here. Amalek, yep. That's a Zion. Hazeh, you just did it. Hazeh. So let's put it together. You did it. Amalek, Hazeh. Amalek, Hazeh. What do you think? What's that?
His crown.
His crown is crooked right here. That's right. That's right. All right. So let's think about what this one looks like, right? So let's break this word down. The, right? And let's break this word down because this is a demonstrative, and let me clear off these. Sorry, I should have done that. So a ze, I left it up here for you. A ze is a this, right? Ze is this. So we have the king, you said, and how would we do this? This.
This is the king.
Or we could simply say this king. This king. No, it's probably from the Zion that's sitting a little crooked on top of the note there. All right. This king. But you can see how when we take it literally into English, we're going to be thoroughly confused. The king, the this. But what did we kind of figured out with adjectives and nouns? We need agreement with things. So in this case, the definite article that's in front, we have full agreement, right? It's the same level of definiteness. They're both masculine singular, right? So everything agrees here. So it's this king. This king. Not, how would I say, not that king. Who? So just be who?
Melech.
Ha who? And we would put one word in front of it if we'd say not this king, and it would be lo. Lo. Lo ha melech, ha who, not that king. And so on the prior thing where I said things close at hand, things further away, they're trying to give you the visual of this, that, these. You kind of, well, this popcorn, right? That daughter. So this is near to me, but that one over there is far away. And so it's a bit of a good visual for that. But
And then low is its own word.
low is its own word. Yep. Yes, turns it into a negative. Yep. All right. So let's go. Carol, why don't you give us the second line down here?
Say. Him.
Ze hamelech. Ze hamelech. What do you think? Let's go ahead and just break this one down. So this, the king. Let's think about our rules. For it to be an adjective noun relationship, 3 things have to match, right?
Sure.
And they don't match, right? What doesn't match here, Carol?
I'd say the hay in front of king.
So there's a hay in front of the king, and what would we need for the 3 to be matched up?
They have to have a hay.
A hay in front of the ze. That's right. That's right. So if they don't match, if remember we look back at that one little example I put in there, that when they don't match definiteness, we need to add the verb is, was, are. So if we go ahead and add one of those verbs in, we could say this is the king. This is the king. So paying attention to that rule of gender, number, definiteness, when you get into these relationships, is going to tell you what kind of phrase you have. This is the king, is how we would render that one. Or this was the king, depends on what the context would be. So let me really quick these in. So we say this king, that way when we come back and people are watching it and they're like, what? This is on that one. All right. You feeling bold and brave?
You're talking here.
No. Let's go ahead and try and pronounce it. Okay. Hamelech, you got it? Perfect. Ze. It'd be ze. Hamelech ze. You got it. Got it. Well, I mean, I try to stick with ones that, you look at and you're like, I know that one. All right. So let's go ahead and break it down into what it would literally mean. So what is a hamelech? The king. Yeah. And this. So let's, do they agree in gender? Are they both masculine?
No.
Why would you say no?
Well, no. Yeah, I'm just sitting there thinking, hey, that makes it masculine.
The hey on the end.
The hey on the end, but that other one's not masculine. It's the hey on the front.
The hey on the front is a definite article. It's the word the. So this is the word the, melech, which is masculine, and ze, which is masculine. So they're both masculine. Yep. And they're both singular because we don't have an im. Right? We know that it's not melachim, so it's singular. And we know from our chart we just learned that a ze is masculine singular. So they match in gender. They match in number. Do they match in definiteness? Do they both have a definite article on them? No. So that tells me I've got a nominative sentence. I've got to put a verb in here to make it make sense. So the king, this one. So we could say, if we were to say the king, this one, how do you think that might? We need to add a verb in there. The verb to be is, was.
Use what?
You could say this one is the king, or believe it or not, it's the same as the one above.
What's it say?
Because Hebrew could care less about word order.
I don't agree.
A little bit like, it's very much like Greek. 100%. You have to figure out by the uses and everything on the end of the words to know what goes with what. Hebrew is exactly the same way. That's why we're concentrating a lot of time on these endings and noun adjective agreements. Because subjects and objects you can kind of figure out, but if you can't figure out the rest of the phrase, it's going to be really hard to know how to put it together.
It's cool because it's like a very clear way to understand what goes together. And then with the word order, you can be poetic or like put emphasis on something.
Yep, exactly. Daisy, do you want to try the last one? All right. You look so comfortable down there. That's why I picked on you. Nope. Read it. Melech ze. Melech ze. What is a melech ze? King this. King this. Now, I haven't taught you why we're about to render this one this way yet, but I mentioned it earlier. There are different levels of definiteness. Right? And so, is this a definite king or an a king? It's a king, right? So that's indefinite. But ze is definite. Why? It's this one, right? So we match in gender. They're both masculine. We match in number. They're both singular, but we don't match in definiteness. Do we? So when we don't match in definiteness, we've got to add the verb, the to be verb in here, is or was or are, whatever it may be. So melech ze, a king, this one. How might you think we would render that? So this is correct. That's the first one, but we need a verb. Is, and not the, because we don't have a ha. This is a king. This is a king. Okay. Trust me, we'll continue to spend some more time around this, because if we get this burned into the brain, the rest of Hebrew is a piece of cake. Wow, that's a lie. The rest of Hebrew is not as bad tasting a cake. All right. We'll review this again next week, but let me pause here for a minute. So do we have any questions about this so far? I know it's all new info and but this chart you want to memorize. mainly this left side. Make sure you just have these memorized stone cold as to what they mean. Aren't you excited? You came?
Oh, you know.
Well, you came in 5 weeks late.
Hey,
But you'll get caught up. Don't worry. Who is he? He is she. I've got to go find my Aramaic
male
teacher.
can be for or those him on or
Just like, and so this is he, she, and these are they, masculine, and they, feminine, plural, as well. So they,
is there a reason why sometimes on at the end?
I don't believe so. It's really time that the text was written.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah. The ah is the historical,
Oh, I see.
and has a little more carrying a little bit more of the older Aramaic forms in it. So it's just different influence for different time. All right. So far, let's do a little vocab, and then we'll get you out of here. All righty. So, all right. So, Carol, why don't you take the top two here and go ahead and read them for me.
Adon.
Adon, perfect.
Yes.
Oz.
Oz.
It's an ah. Yep, perfect. All right, Wayne, to give me the next two. This is a pay, but an F sound. Off. Barak, exactly. Off, you've heard me reference this sometimes when we're going through Job. It can mean also, but it can also mean nose or anger. So if he has an orach off, a long nose, that's how God's described as being patient, is he has a long nose, right? He's patient that way. So when you see off, sometimes you have to figure out, is this the word also, or is it talking about anger? Or is it simply saying off? Because Joseph will, I don't know if it's Joseph or one of the ones I was just reading, his off went towards the earth, which meant he bowed down. It's a visual language. Good job. Good job, Pernod. In fact, take this one here too, since you can do Barak. Take these two as well, since it's the same word.
Oh,
Barakah, perfect. And then your break here this is your syllable break is right here after the resh. So this is one syllable. Bir cut. Bir cut. Yep. Barak, beracha, bir cut. So bet resh kaf, bet resh kaf, bet resh kaf. So this one is to kneel, or he blessed is how that's a verb form. He blessed. This is the noun adjective form, blessing. So you learn bet resh kaf. You've actually learned about 900 words in your Hebrew Bible by just knowing those three letters and what they mean. You'll know what to do with them when you see them.
what's the CST?
Construct. We haven't learned what that means yet. But a construct form is the way Hebrew uses an of relationship. So you are one of 5. You are one of these men. You are one of the tribe. You are a son of Solomon, B'nai Shlomo. That's how you know the word of is in there. Or the construct.
You like a son of the covenant, or the son of the blessing, or
Yes. Yep.
I assume that's why we have this. Okay.
Yep. All right. Steve, take our next 3 here. So this is chutz. Chutz. This is a chet. Chutz.
Oh, that's it.
This is a shurik here, and this is a sade, final sade. We don't see very many of those. Chutz. means outside. So if you have children or dogs, you can say puppies. Yeah. All right. Go ahead and do the next one here. So it's pronounce it like Bach. So it's Cain, or you can just say Cain. That's fine too. Just Cain is fine. This you'll see often. It means favor or grace. When God shows you favor, shows you grace. It's Cain, or it can be Hanan. So this little combination of a het and a nun together oftentimes means favor or grace. Go ahead and give us the last one. Your accent, your emphasis is here on the first letter. So you could say kesed, or chesed, if you can get that in the back of your throat, the hakanalugi, chesed. Yep, it's a phlegm thing, chesed. And chesed, very important word in the Hebrew Bible. It's whenever you come across loving kindness or faithfulness and any of those kind of words, that's hesed. It's a really hard word to translate into English. It's very difficult to kind of capture the whole meaning behind it. But yes. Yep. He was full of hesed. Yes. Yep. All right. Very good. Very good on that one. Let's go to the next one. Gary, would you like to give it a shot? Kamo, you got it? So this would be, mimen. This is a doubled mem here, so we want to give it just a little more on it. Mimen. Then do one more here. 8. Perfect. And what's an 8? Time. Yeah. It just eats away, doesn't it? It eats away. All right, Daisy, take this one here. Speak up. Pen. That's right. Pen. And do you know what the word lest means? Don't ask any of the older ones in the room, lest you might make them feel old. In the event of, something like that. All right. Brant? Rishon, you got it. Perfect. Which means first. Is there any part of this word that kind of stands out familiar to some of your other vocabulary words? Another one? It's the first 3 letters right here. The resh, aleph, shin. When it's got an O vowel and it comes out as rosh. Does anybody remember what a rosh is?
Oh, yeah.
It's a head.
Right. This
So,
is some Joseph side,
bereshit. Mm-hmm. It's the resh, aleph, sheen in there. So the head is often the first. If you're talking about a mountain and the head of the mountain, it's the top of the mountain. If you're talking about the head of the family, that's the first of the family. You're talking about the creation day. You're talking about the head of the start of God making the work. So I just try to point some of those out as we come through. Jay, take the last 2 for us here. Perfect. All right. Yeah, you heard Poppy yawn over there.
Oh, that was a yawn.
Oh, did you want to try to say one, Poppy?
Yeah.
Okay, well, do you want to take that one or do you want to try the last one?
Which one?
So let's do this one right here, the last one right here.
Okay. Is that a noun?
Nope,
Wait.
it's a tav
Okay.
and then ah.
I don't have my notebook in front of me, so that's
So
the
we'll do it together. Ta, hot,
What? Hot?
ta, hot. Exact.
I
And
think I-
you sleep ta hot your blanket. You sleep under your blanket. Ta
Not
hot.
all the time.
I know.
And pronunciation is on the first one.
Yeah. So but it'd be tahat.
It's more
Tahat. Yeah. We have a seglet here where you've got the same vowels, and oftentimes the accent goes forward.
Can I do the next one?
Well, that was it. But if you want to do the one Uncle Jay did, which is the one right up here, you're welcome to. And then we're going to wrap it up.
Because I didn't hear that one.
Okay.
Is that a
This is a
Mhm.
sheen. So it's
Oh,
the
no.
sh sound and an eh sound.
and then
It's the final mem here. So
Oh.
it's shem.
shem?